Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. The games are coming thick and fast and it's Manchester United against Everton on Saturday lunchtime that we're going to be previewing, and what a big game it is for Manchester United. Ten Hag was over the moon with that win against Brentford, and look, it wasn't fantastic. It wasn't a fantastic performance, but yet again it replicates what we were talking in our match reaction about how the win was the main thing. And you look at the player ratings and you look at what we were talking about, there wasn't a bad performance on the pitch, there wasn't an excellent performance on the pitch, it was just a steady 7 out of 10 for the whole team performance, and we win 1-0 and everybody had a part to play in it, and that's the main thing. Get the result, and the same thing, replicate it against Everton, which on paper should be easier than Brentford, but it doesn't always work like that in the Premier League, especially when Everton are fighting relegation. So what can we expect in this game? I'll show you how I would line up in a minute. We'll get that up on the screen. But first of all, a couple of things I wanted to talk about. Did you know Manchester United have a terrible away record in relation to goals conceded? Well, it's hardly a surprise when you've shifted 7 at Liverpool and various other places. However, there is a positive spin to this that people don't like to talk about because, you know what, it don't fit the agenda, does it? So Manchester United, forget Newcastle, forget Arsenal, forget Manchester City, Manchester United have got the best home defensive record in the league, and we are in April. So I think that's something to just acknowledge. De Gea, Martinez, Varane, Malacia, Luke Shaw, Dalot, Wan-Bissaka. They've had a huge part to play in that across the season, and we have got the best defensive home record. And if it was Newcastle and if it was Man City, people would talk about it. But because we've had a few bad away games, no one wants to talk about it. And actually, this is where idiots will get exposed, because I've said all along, we are not playing like Ten Hag's Ajax. We are not creating loads of chances. We are not playing a ridiculously high line, and we are not having 70% possession on the regular. So why are we having a good season, Mark? Because, as we've said many times, after the first 2 games of the season where Brighton and Brentford beat us, Ten Hag rebuilt the season on a strong defence. And people go, man said strong defence when you got beat 7-0 by Liverpool. Yeah, strong defence, that's one game. There's 2 or 3 others, but the vast majority of the games we've played this season are like Brentford. Clean sheet and a 1 goal, or a 2-1, or a 2-0. That's where the bulk of our success this season has come from. Building on a platform of De Gea, Martinez, Varane, Casemiro, that sort of spine centrally, and obviously supplemented by the fullbacks and everybody else in the team. But that's where the success has come from, and it's really clear in the home record. We've only conceded 8 goals in, I think, 11 home games. So hopefully that continues. And it's a big shout out to Ten Hag and the team for that, because it's a hidden stat that no one wants to acknowledge. Because it don't fit the agenda, bro. Or sis. Anyway, another thing, we're playing Everton, of course. They've only won 1 game away from home this season. We've only lost 1 game at home this season, and it certainly wasn't against Everton because we haven't played each other at Old Trafford yet. So look, the signs are good. We've got a very good home defensive record. We've got a very good home win ratio. I think we've won 11 at home, drawn a couple and lost 1. So our home win ratio is very good. As I say, Everton have only won 1 away all season. They're in a relegation battle. I'd be stunned if Everton came to Old Trafford and win, but you've got to respect the fact that those things can happen. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to draw. And maybe Everton getting a draw at Old Trafford isn't impossible. I mean, Brentford could have got a draw the other night. So we've got to be at least the same as the Everton game. Even if we have to grind it out and we play, not that well, we've got to win this game. And I firmly think that we can do. Everton, as I look, let's go to the team news, how I think we'll line up. When I think about Everton, I think that, I look at the way they've played. I mean, Doucouré's had a red card. They've still got powerhouses, that Onana. They've got Iwobi can play in the middle. They've got Idrissa Gueye, Tarkowski. I've got Tarkowski. I've got McNeil. I'm not going to do that. I'll ruin my throat. But I've got to rest him for Saturday. But look, they will be well organised. They will give up the possession. The same as Brentford. Everton, and I said this before the Brentford game, and lo and behold, it came to pass because it's a fact. Brentford rarely have over 30% possession, and they didn't against us for a long part of the game. Everton rarely have over 30% possession. So we're going to have a very similar game. We're probably going to be against a low block, and they want to hit us on the break. They haven't got Calvert-Lewin because he's always injured. I think they've been playing Damari Gray up front with McNeil on the left and then Iwobi on the right. He might tuck in. They don't have that Gordon anymore. As I say, Calvert-Lewin's injured. Morpay, I don't know whether he's fit. I mean, they don't have a lot of goals in them, Everton. You know, Everton's status in the Premier League is going to be based on Goodison Park form and maybe picking up the odd draw away from home. It's not going to be going to Old Trafford and playing expansive. They're going to sit deep. They're going to try and hit us on the break. And for me, that's why you don't make massive changes. I mean, Maguire's not played a minute since the international break. Lindelof's come on at the end of both games, which I think's, again, I can't read Ten Hag, and I like it because I always think that Lindelof's the third choice centre-back and he deserves it. And then before the international break, he was bringing Maguire on ahead of Lindelof. And now he's bringing Lindelof on ahead of Maguire. So I don't know what's going on there, but I don't think you can make any changes to the back five. You want to replicate what we did against Brentford in the first half, where we play that higher line, where the fullbacks push on, and Martinez and Varane attack the centre forward when he receives it so he can't spin. And I think that's what we need to do. You can't bring Lindelof or Maguire into that because when you're going to get countered, you don't want players who aren't as quick as Varane and Martinez. So I think the back four picks itself. Obviously, I don't think Luke Shaw will play because, you know, you don't want to risk it anyway with bigger games to come. And I think Malacia at Old Trafford against Everton is the sort of game you don't risk Luke Shaw in. Into the midfield, I'm probably sure he's going to pick McTominay, Sabitzer and Bruno. Why change it? But I don't know what's going on with Fred. And I think when you're up against Idrissa Gueye and Onana and maybe Iwobi, do Sabitzer, Bruno and McTominay have that movement across the ground that Fred's got? So I think you've got to try and find a place for Fred, and that's why I've took McTominay out, because I'm still, although McTominay was okay against Brentford, in the main he's been poor recently. But I think we will see Fred on the bench again, and I think we will see McTominay. But I'd like to see Fred in there. I think Sabitzer's got to start. I mean, you gave him man of the match against Brentford, and you're not going to drop Bruno. So it really is a toss-up between McTominay and Fred. I think he'll go with McTominay. I'd like to see Fred, but yet again, Everton are a team that, I mean, they're not that big. Everton actually, if they play Idrissa Gueye, Damari Gray, McNeil, Morpay. I mean, Onana's big and their centre-backs are big, but do you need to pick... I think he'll go McTominay. But look, at the end of the day, the positive is if we win the game, it's the last time anyway because Casemiro's back. And then the front three, I think this is the most important area. Surely this is the game that you pick Anthony Martial in because he's played half an hour against Newcastle, roughly 20-25 minutes against Brentford. He's looked absolutely fine. If he comes through training, you give him the 90 minutes against Everton because we're not playing again until Thursday, so it's 5 days. I think this surely is the plan. Now, I don't know whether it will be. He might go with Rashford up front again, play Sancho and Anthony again, and not change a winning team at all. But there might be an opportunity to chuck Martial in, put Rashford back on the left. Look, Rashford scored the goal against Brentford, but I think we saw in the second half when Martial came on and you put Rashford on the left and he's running at the fullback, especially if it's someone like Seamus Coleman, you want somebody that can run at him. And the one thing I will say about Anthony and Sancho is that they don't have pace. So it would be quite nice to have one of them on one side and then the pace of Rashford on the other with Martial. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see that because it's very, very clear, with all due respect, Weghorst didn't come on against Brentford, and we definitely didn't miss anything about Weghorst's game. And that's the kindest thing to say. We didn't miss anything that Weghorst has offered in the last few weeks. We didn't miss the fact that he's not very mobile. We didn't miss the fact that he's not very good on the link-up. We were better without him. And that's not to say that Weghorst won't have a big part to play at some point. But right now, you know, we don't need that option. So I'd be stunned if he makes any big changes. You know, if he brought a Maguire in or a Lindelof in or, you know, a Weghorst or something like that, I'd be stunned if he did that. So, and again, I think that, you know, Brentford was the more trickier game because they're having a better season. You could argue that Everton have the better players on paper, but they're not having the better season. And as I say, look, Everton's away record, they've won, they've drawn 6, won 1 and lost 7. So, you know, they're capable of getting a draw. We need to be better at creating chances, don't we? That's what Manchester United need to do. We know that. We need to be better at creating chances that are good chances. You know, I look at the game against Brentford, the Rashford goal and maybe the pullback to Fred. They're the two best chances in 90 minutes for all that possession. So we've got to find ways to create chances, and that's why I'd like to see Martial start, because he knows how to play number 9. Rashford knows how to be direct from the left. That's my only fear. We saw it against Brentford. That's why I went with 2-0 against Brentford. I knew it wasn't going to be 3 or 4-0 because we're not capable of doing that at the moment. Until we get Casemiro and an Eriksen back, I don't think we're going to start really having the creativity to create the big chances and cause people problems. So, you know, the issue against Everton is going to be getting that goal and then forcing them to come out a little bit and hope that you can get the second, because they'll be overjoyed if it's a 0-0. They'll love it a 0-0. They don't score many goals themselves, so they'll be looking at a 0-0. But I'm going to go with 2-0 again. And if we get 1-0, I'll be over the moon. Really, it's about the 3 points. You look at that Premier League now after the Newcastle game, and I think a few people were getting a bit concerned. I wasn't. I think the time to get concerned would have been Saturday night if we didn't beat Brentford and we didn't beat Everton. You know, if we'd drawn the games, 2 points from the last 9 would have been opening the door up to Spurs. I think we're 3 points ahead. Well, I know we're 3 points ahead of Spurs now, and we've still got a game in hand. So, you know, as long as we win that game in hand whenever it happens and we keep that gap at 3 points, 6 points is a lot when you're down to 7, 8 games left. So, yeah, I think it's all about winning on Saturday. Will it be pleasant? Will it be, will it be vintage United? Probably not. If it is, it's a bonus. But if we win the game, that's all that matters, isn't it? So I'm going to go 2-0. And then I think, we don't want to look too far ahead, but then we're moving into the area where we become a different team again. Casemiro returns from suspension with a bit of a rest, hungry like he always is. Eriksen comes back earlier than he probably thought he was, hungry and very, very important to our team. And then you're hitting games like Sevilla, Sevilla home and away in a quarter-final of the Europa League. Brighton and Wembley on the horizon as well. And some key Premier League games that won't necessarily be easy, Chelsea at home and Spurs away. And I think we've got Brighton again or something like that. But, those games will take care of themselves. I think we're in a very different era at the moment with regards to where we're at. I'm just wondering, I'm going to have a word with Sebastian. I've just realised my Europa League ball is up there and my Manchester United ball is there. And I didn't bloody swap them. I don't think so. Actually, that's a bit high for Seb to get up to. I'm getting old, people. I'm moving my balls around and not knowing where I've put them. Anyway, I forget where I was. Yeah, so look, we become a different team after Saturday. And I think seasons are always about different stages. And we will probably look back on this period without Casemiro against Fulham, against Newcastle, against Everton and against Brentford. And at the end of the day, we are not a very good team when we don't have Casemiro in the team. He's a fundamental part to how we want to play. If we've knocked Fulham out the cup, we beat Brentford and we beat Everton, we lost to Newcastle, you'd probably take 3 wins and a loss. You probably would without Casemiro. And that's what's there in front of us now. It's been a bit of a slog, but right in front of us now, there's that Everton result. Let's get that Everton result and let's move on. Simple as that. So I'm going to go 2-0 win. Get your comments in below. Smash a like on the video. I'm back on the show later on. Take care, everyone. Speak to you in a bit.